Another world, another time, in the age of wonder.
You are listening to
Trial by Stone.
Trial by Stone!
Trial by Stone!
This is what I came for.
Your vital essence, the dark crystal.
I can feel something. Hear it almost.
Don't move.
Don't move? Where would I go?
Quiet!
Hello and welcome to Trial by Stone. This is your vital essence on all things to Dark Crystal. I'm your host Philip, and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And this is a very exciting episode. As of this recording a couple of days ago, the first of teaser trailer for the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance has come out, and it's just a beautiful, well done trailer. There is a lot in that trailer that, today we want to break it down, of course. You probably heard us in the previous episode with myself, Jaime and Ethan. We did like sort of a first reaction, sort of break, little bit of a short episode just to get the episode out there, just to give you all sort of our initial thoughts of the trailer. But, now that we've had a couple of days thinking about it and watching the trailer probably hundreds of times, we're going to try and break it down as much as we can. So, of course, if you're new to the show, I'm Philip. And also with me is my two co-hosts of Trial by Stone, Jaime and Ethan. Jaime and Ethan, how you both been doing?
Doing good.
I too have been good.
Good. Cool. And also with us to help us, break down the trailer, of course, is Eric Rivas. Eric, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's so cool. So cool to be here. Talk to you guys finally.
Yeah, I know it has been a long time meaning to, have you on, and it just sort of worked out all the time zones to try and schedule to make this chat happen. So, no, I really thank you and really appreciate your time being with us. As we're going to break down the trailer the teaser trailer for the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. So I think, we might just start off with just sort of, I guess, the first reactions. I know Jaime and Ethan, and we sort of talked about it in the previous episode. But Eric, I would actually be interested to know, what was your reaction when you saw the teaser trailer for the first time?
Oh, man. Just like anybody else, we're all waiting for that countdown from that Instagram, and then the disappointment when that poster came out. And it was 3 a.m. for me, and went back to sleep, and I was just constantly checking Facebook with Jaime and the rest of you guys, because it's always like the first response. Like, I know you guys wouldn't let me down as soon as that dropped. And so actually, I am staying with my grandparents right now in this transition of buying this new house and moving. So I'm always running tasks for her and stuff. So I was actually taking my grandma to the doctor, and I was sitting there waiting in the car, just like I am right now. and that trailer dropped. I was like, oh man, I know my reaction is going to be so crazy to this. I just want to go home and just record it so I can have that moment, because I just knew it was going to be so good. And I for about 5 minutes I sat there. It's like, I'm just, just let me wait. I'll be home in about half an hour. And I just said, forget it. I got to watch it now. And it's just like the whole time I was just, from that first shot of, Augur's Observatory, I just felt chills. And it's just like your dream come true of talking about this movie to people that can't relate with it or don't know what it is. And it really was a dream come true to just see this in 2019. And I was just soaking up every shot and grinning ear to ear. It blew me away.
That teaser trailer, like I said earlier, I was just amazed just how many shots were in this trailer for a 2-minute trailer. Usually teaser trailers, they tend to be very vague or very short, and you only get sort of just a little tiny piece. But I feel like, in that trailer we saw quite a bit. But still, even though it's like we saw quite a bit in this teaser trailer, the fact that we're getting 10 hours of Dark Crystal, it is very surreal. Ethan and Jaime, I might as well get your thoughts, just in case people haven't listened to the previous episode, just sort of your reactions seeing that trailer.
My reaction was, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. It's finally here 2 years later, and it blew me away. I had high expectations, and they surpassed it. And all I could do is I salute everybody that's worked on this. They have done such a good job. Everyone I've talked to is so impressed with this, including my wife, who's not a Dark Crystal fan. She is as regular Joe as you can get, and she loves this. I am so excited to see how the public takes this in. I mean, this is going to be amazing.
Much like everyone else, I was up very, very late thinking that the Dark Crystal Instagram was going to drop a trailer. And then I was thinking, as I was like, well, does Instagram usually drop a trailer? No, they don't. But whatever. I was still waiting like everyone else. It's one of those things where you keep watching it to like, is this really happening? Is this really true? And then you watch the trailer again and you're like, yeah, it is true. It is true. So it's one of those moments for me that I will remember for the rest of my life. Just everything that's in the trailer, just all of everything that's familiar, everything that's new and that's amazing and it's exciting. And yeah, I still feel like I'm in that initial shock of, oh my God, we have moving images from this show that has reached mythic proportions already. That's actually really going to happen.
How many times have you seen it? How many times have you watched the trailer?
I've watched the trailer probably 35 times.
I might be probably around the same amount. I'm probably over than that. I would think probably at least maybe 50 times. But that was because I do a lot of editing. Because, of course, I don't know for any of the listeners, I actually created a teaser trailer reaction compilation that's on the Trial by Stone, the Dark Crystal Podcast's YouTube channel. And so, I mean, this is the thing on YouTube that a lot of people do videos of them reacting to trailers, and you see the trailer like in a corner of the screen, and you see them just reacting to it. And so I decided to grab all the video or most of the videos from all the different reactions and just put them together in this like one big sort of epic compilation trailer, which actually worked out pretty well. That was probably when I watched it the most, just because I was just going through everyone's reactions and basing it on with everyone, their reactions are just really positive, and it's just pretty awesome. Yeah.
Right? I love that compilation. It is so fun to watch.
And it was awesome that Dark Crystal on Twitter, they actually retweeted about the video. So that was pretty cool, and got some nice comments like with Vivian Lee, one of the writers on the show. She really enjoyed it. So I think quite a lot of people at the Jim Henson Company probably had a great day just watching all these reaction videos and probably even listening to us sort of talking about our reactions the other day. And so it's just, yeah, these past couple of days have been pretty incredible. And I mean, as we're just seeing like on YouTube, I mean, right now, as of this recording, it's number 23 on trending at the moment, and it's reached over 4 million views. So yeah, it's really awesome that it's sort of really getting the attention that it deserves.
One thing that I love reading in terms of reading the reactions are people saying this. They're saying, wow, they didn't mess it up. It looks like what I remember. It's the Dark Crystal. They didn't mess it up. And that is a really great sign. And I'm telling you, I don't know what you guys are reading, but what I'm reading, everyone is saying that essentially, or versions of that. Like, wow, this looks good. They went for puppets. They're creating it. Jim Henson is proud. You know, he's smiling. Like, just this chorus of appreciation and confirmation that what the filmmakers responsible for Age of Resistance have produced is in line with what they produced in 1982. That's really great to hear or read.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, like, I mean, with a show like Age of Resistance, it's really going like to expand the whole mythology. Because, I mean, in the original film, like, we only had 2 Gelflings in the film. Even though the story itself was big, but, it was pretty small in regards to, the amount of characters that we had. Age of Resistance is just going to blow it out of the water. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see, like, seeing all the different kinds of Gelflings and new Skeksis characters that we haven't seen from the films, and Mystics as well. So there's just a lot to look forward to with this trailer. Again, like, it's just a very incredible for a teaser trailer. It was just amazing, and it's pretty crazy that we've only got less than 3 months to go until the show comes out. So it's just going to be an incredible time for Dark Crystal fans. Yeah,
I know it's so nuts that this is the first real chunk of footage that we've seen, and they give us so much to look at. I mean, you think teaser trailer, I thought we were going to get some, pan shots of the forest or just something really simple, but there's so much. This could just pass as a regular trailer. So I can't wait to see what this, if we have a second trailer coming out, what that's going to be. I mean, every 12 hours you get another million people watching it. And, like Jamie said, every comment on these YouTube videos is so positive. And a lot of people are commenting like they've not known too much about Age of Resistance. and just like, oh, you're bringing me back to my childhood. Like, whoa, this is a flashback, and it's just so cool to hear.
And I think that's the thing, like with a show like Age of Resistance, it's going to be a big jumping point for a lot of people that have never seen a Dark Crystal before. And Age of Resistance is definitely going to be the perfect introduction for new people to know and understand everything Dark Crystal. That for me is sort of, I'm really looking forward to seeing how new fans sort of react to it. But also, you know, us as well, like with all that. So we just got so much to look forward to. You know, as we've been seeing, like even the past couple of days, just seeing all the Dark Crystal communities, or like with the fan groups, that we're getting new members sort of appearing on a daily basis. So there's a lot of people really excited about the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance.
And one thing in relationship to the amount of fans, Ethan and I are the admins for this group called the Crystal Shard, which is a Dark Crystal fan group, and it's really awesome, well moderated, really friendly. There are some people who are involved in the show or who were involved in the original film that are in the group. It's a great place to go. But what we're seeing is an influx of membership requests. And some of those people, or a lot of those people, they are kind of jumping on the excitement train. They're seeing something, they're responding to it. They want to be in a place where that they can discuss it or see people discuss it. And you can tell, like you said, there's a lot of people who are becoming familiar with what this property is. And they kind of know, they little bit, they do or they don't. But Age of Resistance is a great place for people to start almost at the beginning of the story. We know how the story ends, but I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with that. At least a lot of the fans that are joining up, or the people who are becoming new fans. Just in the last week in the Crystal Shard, we've added almost 300 people, which is just like this morning. I think in the span of 20 minutes, I added 21 people or 20 people, something crazy like that. Really, I mean, the pitch, it's fever pitch in terms of excitement. Like, as everyone knows, I run two other podcasts. One is Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast, and the other is Shoulder of Orion, the Blade Runner podcast. And like the Dark Crystal, they're kind of niche films. Certainly the Alien trilogy or the Alien series is far bigger, huge fan base. The kind of excitement that I'm seeing for Age of Resistance is clobbering the Alien series. But I also, as we discussed, I think maybe in a prior episode, the Dark Crystal really it's had one film. It's had some books that's been released, but it has one film property. And now it's essentially about to get 10 more. So it's just going to blow the door wide open, but it's just an exciting place to be. It's an exciting time to be in groups and see people join up those groups and engage people in conversation and see people post, hey, I just watched this film again with my 7-year-old and they loved it, or they had questions, and people are, oh, is the Chamberlain in this? And people seeing the Chamberlain in the trailer, and just seeing all that nostalgia, but excitement. Again, it's unthinkable where we're at right now, that we're going to get 10 hours back in this world that we love so dearly. So I'm really excited.
It's such a surreal experience. I mean, even, for myself, when I started the podcast almost 5 years ago, and I mean, I started the podcast just because, there wasn't any podcast about Dark Crystal, and it was around the time that darkcrystal.com was released, that the Jim Henson Company did, and they started the Author Quest. And so I sort of thought, okay, well, at least they're sort of trying to bring the franchise back by doing these young adult novels. And this was around a time that Creation Myths was coming out at that time. So I thought, okay, well, at least there'll be a couple of things to look forward to. Never would I imagine, the couple of years later doing the podcast, like that we'd actually get a Netflix, a prequel series to the Dark Crystal. And I mean, that's the thing, like it has been sort of a long wait for fans of the Dark Crystal. I mean, it really all began in 2005 when the Power of the Dark Crystal sequel was sort of in development at that time, or was announced as being in the works with that Power of the Dark Crystal. It unfortunately got cancelled, I think, by 2012, but then a couple of years later, they did adapt it into a 12 comic book series with Archaea. At the time, like it was, it was a bit sad about that time that the movie never got made. But what we're getting with Age of Resistance is going to be so much, I think, much better, just because it's just the era where the Skeksis are in their prime and the Gelflings as well. And it's just just a big magical world of Thra. Like, it's just, again, yeah, it's just going to be really incredible. So, Eric, I actually wanted to know, from watching the trailer, like, what was like one of your favorite moments from seeing the trailer? Was there a shot or just any moments within that teaser trailer, Eric?
I mean, the first thing that hits me is like, what am I looking at? Is this CGI? Is this real? And everything was just so fresh but so familiar. So that was like just so cool to take in, because we're always talking about, well, how much CGI is going to be in this show, or how much puppetry are we going to have? But like, there's just so many practical effects in this trailer, and just gives you goosebumps because you just don't see that today. Gosh, I could even pick a favorite spot. Even when you see, I guess it's Rian looking at the castle and that slow pan over there, it was just chills down your body. And a lot of the moments that are so great, you have to like pause the trailer to see all these clips because there's so much going on. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, one of my sort of favorite moments from the trailer, I think when I was reacting to it, was probably the dream fasting. So seeing all the visions and sort of as Deet was touching sort of that flower, like that seemed to be part of the extension of the tree, maybe. As, seeing all those visions, these really quick shots. I'm just like, ooh, that was a great take on dream fasting. So that was probably one of my favorite moments, and as well as probably the shot of Rian, how he's I think it looked like Rian cutting the rope and sort of swinging up to exit with the chandelier going down. Like, for me, that was probably one of my sort of favorite shots, and I think it's the whole, just because like with seeing Gelfling puppets like in wide shots, like for me, like makes me lose the suspension of disbelief. Just seeing them moving, and it's just pretty incredible. I don't know yourself, Jaime and Ethan.
I can't remember what favorite moment I said last time, but I will say that seeing the forest, so beautiful, and it's very much the forest that we know from the original, but of course it's a little bit more alive, it's a little more lush, because this is a different period in the land of Thra, I suppose. And seeing, for a moment you see a Landstrider running through the forest, you see I think it's Rian in the forest or somebody. There's a lot going on. Then you see Rian and Deet in front of a house. I don't think it's her house. It's somebody's house. And they're kind of looking at things. Those moments in the forest, they're just amazing. They're some of my favorite shots of the trailer.
And I remember a lot of people, sort of, when they were reacting to the trailer, I think with that shot of the forest, a lot of people made jokes about that those creatures that we saw spinning around look like those Sky Dancer toys. I think they were from the 90s, and I think I vaguely remember what they were. So it would be actually kind of funny if that toy company, they re-release them and slap on a Dark Crystal logo on it. And
yeah, it's funny. Although, I mean, in the original film, when Jen's in the forest, you see those flower things, and they're almost versions of those things, whatever we're seeing in the Age of Resistance trailer, spinning and floating up. So they look sort of within the same context of those things, but I think what we're seeing in Age of Resistance are fairy-like creatures, because if you look at them, if you freeze frame, you can see that they have a body, you can see that there's legs, and those arms are what's twirling, and as they settle down on that log, they move. It's very interesting. It's very beautiful.
Agreed.
And so, I mean, just going like through, like with the trailer. So for those that want to know, like, I mean, this is the official synopsis of the show. And so it says that the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance tells a new epic story set many years before the events of the movie and realized using classic puppetry with cutting-edge visual effects. The world of Thra is dying. The Crystal of Truth is at the heart of Thra, a source of untold power. But it is damaged, corrupted by the evil Skeksis, and a sickness spreads across the land. When three Gelfling uncover the horrific truth behind the power of the Skeksis, an adventure unfolds as the fires of rebellion are lit and an epic battle for the planet begins. So, I mean, just based on that synopsis alone, like, even that story, that synopsis alone just seems very big, like in scope. It says it's going to be really interesting to see, I guess, with the three Gelflings. Of course, they're introduced in the show as Rian, Deet and Bria, and like all those characters look, just amazing. And actually, I mean, in this teaser trailer, we really got a lot of Deet in this teaser trailer, and I think she's slowly becoming like a bit of a fan favorite for a lot of people. Yeah,
I know part of me kind of wonders if she's the main character. I was always leaning toward Rian, but I don't know. Like, are we more focused on Deet, or is this her story? And Bria and Rian are kind of the Kiras, like, I don't know, supporting characters? Or is it actually divided three ways? Do they have three storylines in three separate locations, and maybe at some point in the season they intertwine? I don't know. I don't know who to root for. I mean, I'm rooting for all of them. I'm like, who's my favorite character? I don't know. Actually, I do know. That's a lie. Bria. I don't know. I mean, this girl, she's digging through books, looking at symbols. Yeah. I'm she's like, girl, are you me? Are you me? So, yeah, I love her. I love Deet. She's gorgeous. I love looking at her. And Rian, I think he's gorgeous. I think he looks like 60s Cher. Google 60s Cher. I swear it looks exactly the same, and I think
I'm still seeing Margot Kidder there.
Oh, totally Margot Kidder, totally. If anyone doesn't know who Margot Kidder is, because I'm sure we have some younger people, Margot Kidder played Lois Lane in the first Superman movies that started in the 70s. She's awesome. She unfortunately passed away, but yes, there's a resemblance.
It's uncanny. I Googled her. I admit I did not know who she was. It's uncanny.
Oh my God.
It's almost creepy.
You're funny. You know what's interesting? Here's a question for everybody. Knowing that what we know about the original film, that when we meet Jen and Kira, well, first of all, we think that Jen's the only one. He thinks he's the only one. Then he meets Kira. We know how the story ends. How do you feel about these characters in this world, knowing that perhaps everyone's going to die? Does that lessen your excitement? I think I know the answer, but how do you even think about that?
I mean, I don't think that's something we're going to see in this season. I think this is going to really end on a victorious note for the Gelfling, with a hint of what is yet to come. But I don't know. I'd like to think it's not going to be so much of a downer at the end of this. I mean, it very well could be. We could walk away feeling very Rogue One, but even that, had a lot of hope and a lot of, inspiration. But I'm trying to kind of steer away from those feelings because, we still don't really know what is the time frame. It could be 50 years, 100 years. What is the lifespan of a Gelfling? Could they, defeat them in this, small timeline and then live enough to just die a natural death? And then, I don't know. But I'm kind of leaning towards we're not going to see that this season. But you never know, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I guess for myself, I know it's just something I'm not really thinking too deep about that. But I do think that, especially if there's going to be another season of the show, which is, I mean, it is a possibility, but if there is a season 2, I do feel like that season 1 is really just going to build up the world of Thra, really get to know the Gelflings, really get to know the clans, so that by the time, in the season or so later, and then once we get to sort of the end of the show of the whole sort of, the genocide, I guess, of the Skeksis sort of wiping out the Gelflings, I think that's going to be really devastating to see. So, I mean, for me, it's not something I haven't really thought too deep about that. But I do think that there might be some little twists here and there, whether there might be some Gelflings that actually might make it out alive. And I think there is a couple of scenarios where that could potentially happen, so that not all the Gelflings got wiped out. That there were some that did survive, but they've just gone somewhere far away.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Phil. In fact, I think Age of Resistance is a great way to plant seeds of other stories. So I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. But is it possible that, say, for instance, Deet or Rian or Brea or whoever ends up getting in a boat or getting in a ship and leaving the shores of Thra? Like, what happens? Like, there's so much possibility here. Yes, we know that there's a lot that's going to happen in terms of the genocide, but then, of course, you have I don't know if for sure Power of the Dark Crystal is canon, but if it's true, you have Gelflings who go underground. You have Gelflings who kind of hide. I think even in Power of the Dark Crystal, Jen and Kira repopulate Thra. So where are these Gelflings coming from? So I think that there's a lot there that we can hope for.
Yeah, I think that the writers, when they sat down and they started working on this, I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of the first things they talked about. Because doing a prequel to something like Dark Crystal, it isn't like Star Wars. I mean, I know that the Jedi were all wiped out, but the Jedi were or an order. It's a sect of people. The Gelfling, they are the only people. I mean, there's podlings and there's other creatures and animals, but the Gelfling are the people of this planet. They're the window into this world, the human, they're supposed to be us. They're supposed to be the humans.
Sort of our avatar in a way.
Yes. And so, I mean, it was everybody. It wasn't just the Grottons. It wasn't just the Drenchen. It was everybody. And that's a lot deeper and darker than just the Jedi being killed. And I think it's something that's plagued prequels to the Dark Crystal in the past. I've looked at tons and tons and tons of reviews for Legends of the Dark Crystal, the manga that was released a number of years ago, and everybody and their dog says, such a bummer knowing you're reading about these characters that are gonna die. I mean, every victory that they have, it's like, well, in the broader spectrum, it was for nothing anyway. And it's something that the writers probably sat down and talked about, because what's the point of having 5 seasons of Age of Resistance when at the end it doesn't matter. You start at the beginning of Dark Crystal and you've got 10 Skeksis who won. You got Jen, you got Kira from our point of view, and everybody else died. And that is dark and sad and depressing. And it's like, well, what do we do? And I imagine they probably said, well, to Jen, he thought he was the only one. To Kira, she thought that she was the only one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of from a certain point of view kind of thing. They're going to twist our perspectives, I think. They're gonna do some sneaky stuff, I imagine. So keep an eye out.
Totally. And I think it's one of those things where we all go through things in life, and sometimes, when you're going through a challenge in your life, you feel like you're alone in it, whether it's an emotional challenge, economic challenge, whatever kind of challenge it is, you kind of feel alone. And then sometimes you're talking to people and you're like, oh no, I feel this way too. And you're like, oh, what? I'm not alone. So I think that in terms of Jen and Kira, they might have thought, well, we're the only survivors, but everybody thinks that, in terms of the world of Thra, the context of Thra. If, say, there's a portion of a clan that survived and they're in hiding, they could think we're the last surviving Gelflings and we can't go out because they'll kill us and they're hunting us or whatever. So I think it's ripe for other stories to be told. And that's actually really exciting. But I had another question for you guys. In terms of, we were talking about what we've seen, favorite moments, and I noticed a discussion in a group about something we didn't see, and people wondering, well, is it going to be in this show? And I'm curious is there anything in the trailer that you guys didn't see that you're curious of?
Yeah, the Mystics would have to be the big one. Of course, the Mystics are the counterparts of the Skeksis. So, I mean, but I think we did see some shots that look like could potentially be at the Valley of the Mystics or the Valley of the Stones. When we see, I think it was after the shot of Fizzgig, you see a shot of Deet, and then the next shot is a wide three of them, Deet, Ree, and Bria. And it certainly looks like behind Deet looks like a mystic, but whether that's a Landstride in the background. So I know we don't actually see the mystics in this trailer, but I think we got just a little glimpse of them. So I mean, but I think that's the thing. I think with this teaser trailer, that I think they really had to focus on the Skeksis. I mean, because of course, they're gonna have a much bigger role in this show, sort of being the villains of of Thra, of the Dark Crystal. So it makes sense to really push having as many Skeksis stuff, within the trial to reintroduce and introduce people to the Dark Crystal. But I definitely think that we will be seeing mystics probably down the track with the show. I don't know if we're going to see them like in the first couple episodes. It might be something that might happen towards the end of the season. If it gets to the point where these three heroes decide, let's go see the mystics, let's get, see what they think, if they can help us, that sort of thing. Yeah.
If they even know they exist, which is a possibility. What makes me think that is there's that photo that they released of Bria looking at those books. One's a smaller book with Aughra's photo, and then one's more of a formal book behind it with a photo of Aughra and all of these symbols. And it almost is like she's reading about this creature or this thing, this kind of sage that maybe lives on Thra, or it's a mythology, and maybe they don't even know if Aughra exists except for in myth. So perhaps the mystics are the same way, where they've heard of the mystics, but they don't know if, kind of like the Jedi in The Force Awakens, where they're kind of in myth status, where people tell these stories, but no one really knows if they're real or not. And it's going to be interesting to see how much the Gelflings know, how insular their communities are, because we don't know anything too much about how clans interact with each other. I mean, I've only read the first book. I'm not reading anymore just because I don't want to spoil myself. But just based off one book, and this isn't anything that's a spoiler, there does seem to be this very intentional separation between clans, and that they don't really venture out that much, and the clans stay with. Although there seems to be Gelfling guards, as we've seen in the trailer, that maybe work at the castle. But it's just going to be interesting to see their dynamic, their community, what they believe, what they know is true. And aside from the Skeksis, if they know about anything else, if they know about where the Skeksis come from, because they might not even know that. They might not know about the Urskeks at all.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. And I guess, the thing with Aughra, especially in the trailer, as we see her sort of trekking out, going outside of her home. And this seems to be in a timeline where Aughra is pretty much broken because the Dark Crystal, the Crystal of Truth was damaged by the Skeksis. And I guess it was interesting to see her sort of, because at that point in time, it seemed like she just sort of stayed in her home, the observatory, the whole time, and just sort of over time, the Gelflings sort of forgot about Aughra. And I think that sort of happened in one of the comics. That's sort of, without spoiling it, but just sort of, if you wanted to know something about the backstory of Thra and all things Dark Crystal, the Dark Crystal creation myths is a great starting point if you want to read those. So I think there was a couple of things within the comics that just seemed like she just really just pretty much stayed inside the observatory, just watching over the heavens and the skies and moons and stars. But to see her trek outside was really interesting. So I'd be curious to know, where is she going to? Maybe she's trekking to go see the mystics. So who knows? Yeah.
Speaking of the mystics and whether the Gelfling know about them or not, I think that, our girl Brea, I think that when we go and hit the books with her, that's when we're going to get a history lesson. And it's probably going to show us why, maybe not all the comics, maybe not all the books and everything line up. I bet you anything that's when we're going to get a lot of different versions of events. And that's when we're going to get the history lesson on Aughra. And maybe that'll be the first mention of the mystics, and maybe Brea is going to be like, what the heck's an Uru or a mystic, I think that's what, when we're going to get, the exposition. So they have to hide some things from us. We're not going to get an Uru in the first teaser. I bet maybe in 2 months we'll get another trailer, and maybe we'll get a glimpse there.
I think, we got a lot, to look forward to, and hopefully in the next trailer, maybe we might get to see some mystics in particular. So, which is all just so exciting, and as we sort of continue on, I guess I wanted to know everyone's thoughts. I know if any of you had sort of any critiques about with the teaser trailer for Age of Resistance.
You know, I know a lot of people were kind of shocked by the, you know, what's that Batmobile? What is the car that Chamberlain is riding? And stuff. I probably would have had that same reaction, but I mean, I know that they talk about that in the books. And I remember reading that in the books and kind of like putting it down and like, you know, looking around thinking, I guess I had all that time to digest that, and I really accepted that. And I think it's really cool, just the pace of this trailer and the action that we see. And I've kind of mentioned before, you know, the original Dark Crystal is a much more, it's just kind of relies a lot on the slower visuals and it's a slower pace. And it just seems like we're going to get a lot of action in this new version. And I think it's got a lot to do with what they can do now. I mean, we've had almost 40 years for the puppeteers to learn what they can and can't do and how they can improve these movements. And I just thought the trailer was so well done with the pacing of that.
I think, like, yeah, especially there is so much movement with the characters. Yeah, I mean, compared to the original film. I mean, you know, there'd be moments within the film, like with the Skeksis, and they sort of look like they're walking on a limp, or like, I mean, you could probably, you know, explain that, okay, well, it's really old age. But like just seeing the Skeksis, you know, being able to move up and about a lot is pretty incredible stuff. But yeah, I've just got a freeze frame of the Chamberlain just looking outside, you know, the carriage while he's, you know, driving it. And I mean, I actually liked it. Like, I thought it was a fun moment in the trailer. And yeah, I mean, like, I think that was a big surprise for me. Was I was really surprised of just how much it seems to be that there was quite a few shots in the trailer that seemed to cross over with Joe's books. Author J.M. Lee, he's been working on the Dark Crystal young adult novel series, and so there's 3 books that are currently out now at the moment. So you got Shadows of the Dark Crystal, Song of the Dark Crystal, and Tides of the Dark Crystal, and they're actually going to be re-released in paperback form towards the end of this month in June. So that's really exciting to see them being released. But yeah, I was really surprised about the crossover between his books and this show. I mean, what about yourself, Ethan? I know you've been reading the books yourself. Were you surprised about just how much, you know, potentially a lot of, you know, some of the crossovers have been?
If you have knowledge about Joe's books while watching that trailer, it is very jarring. Like, wow, you see certain shots and you're like, oh, wow, that's that. And that's that. It is really exciting to have a little bit of foreknowledge about this new world we're entering while reading Joe's books. And I think that those 4 books, Shadows, Song, Tides, and Flames, they're not required reading. I think it's going to be a parallel story. You can read them if you want a taste of what's coming. You don't have to, but they're darn good fun. You know, go ahead and give it a go if you want to see some cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of crossover. I'll tell you that much. There are characters that, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's some, you know, Iron Man popping up in some scenes in there. And you're like, oh, well, shoot, you're from Age of Resistance, you know. But speaking of, you know, hashtag Skekmobile, I just wanted to say I went through the 5 stages of grief. I went through the 5 stages of grief watching that. At first, I was like, nah, I don't like it. But then it really grew on me really fast. I mean, at first, I just thought it was a little bit too much, but no, I was wrong. I love it. I need a toy of it. I want it so bad. I mean, they sat down and said, hey, what if we did a Dark Crystal car chase? And they did it with puppets. Oh my, I mean, I have to say, who am I to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I really think Jim Henson would have loved that. You know, that is so cool. You know, to see these Gelflings running around on the Skekmobile and the Chamberlain popping his head out like, you know, get off, you guys. You know, I'm trying to get places. I can't see past you. So exciting. I love it.
It's sort of like, it'd be so cool, like getting like the Skekmobile and even getting like the Landstriders and sort of creating, you know, playing with the figurines and doing our own sort of like chase sequence and sort of like I was almost thinking about like Mad Max, like have our own Mad Max version of the Dark Crystal. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Totally Mad Max.
Yeah.
I was telling Ethan that it kind of reminded me a little bit of a big wheel. I don't know why, but maybe it's just the wheels. There's just something about it that reminds me of a big wheel. I don't know why.
I want to get one for my son and have him ride in it. He's almost 2 years old. He would love that, just riding around. I'm a Skeksis, yeah.
I do think that it's different. It's very different. I'll take it a step further. What you said, I think Jim Henson is looking down on this, and he's just jumping for joy. I think this is the world that he wanted to create. It was the world he intended to create. It was probably the world he would like to create if he ever went back to it. They did his dream so well. I think everyone is smiling. I mean, I don't know what Frank Oz thinks if he's seen anything, but this is the world that Jim Henson created. And but in terms of like critiques, like the only other thing, like I feel like I always have to buffer any critique that I give with, hey, I love it, I love it, I love it. And I love everything that I've seen, even if maybe the carriage is a little bit strange for me to see in the context of Thrawn. And it is, but whatever. I think it's probably only one scene. The only thing that's visibly different for me, and this is probably like a hardcore fan thing, is the crystal chamber looks smaller. If you compare it to original or photos of the original, it just looks massive. But this new one, the Skeksis look bigger in it. They look closer to the crystal. The balcony area just looks smaller and closed in. I don't know. Maybe it's just that angle. I probably am completely wrong, but I've noticed other people saying that as well. Maybe it was just a budget thing. I don't know. Again, it could have just been the angle. I know that they wanted to kind of get the camera in there and get it moving, and we're very close to the Skeksis at that point. And even so, even if it is smaller, those images in it, I mean, it looks like that's from the original film. I mean, the colors and everything. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. But that would be the only kind of critique, quote unquote, that I might have, is it looks small. But that's it.
Well, I have agreed with that, but I will say, shout out to Ryan Wells out there. He had a good argument for why it's the same exact set ratio. That's not a good description. But he said, I promise you they didn't go through all the trouble of recreating the crystal chamber 37 years later just to skimp on 10 feet. And a good point, he said it's the same scale, but a different perspective. It's our eyes are playing tricks on us. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna say, you know what, you're right. I don't think that they're skimping on us. I think that it's just a couple shots in a teaser trailer, and we've never seen from directly above the crystal, and it's just a few feet above the crystal. So it does look tight. It does look strange. In the opening shot of the crystal chamber in the movie, we're 18 feet up, and we're from the side. And so I'll say it's the same exact set. It just looks odd in a teaser trailer. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'll agree with Ryan Wells.
Yeah, I just don't think we've seen the right shots.
Oh, I agree. I think so too. I think you're probably right. And I think we're getting closer. The camera's far more, I think, in the action, in the set pieces than it was before. There's a lot more movement, I think, due to technology, where things are in 2019 or 2018, when they're kind of building all of these things. We have far more direct access to these things, and we have a different angle, essentially. So that's probably just the angle and not the set.
I agree.
Yeah, and I guess for any of the listeners know, I did have Ryan Wells on probably one of the early episodes of Trial by Stone. And Ryan Wells, he's an amazing cosplayer who's cosplayed as the Skeksis and as the Gartham and several other characters from different franchises. Yeah, so I definitely sort of agree that I think it seems to be just the angle and just the technology that they have, especially like with the camera being able to sort of get up and close with certain shots with all the characters and stuff. So, I mean, that was one of the things, like little critiques that I felt like even the Gelflings look a bit small in scale compared to what Jen and Kira look like in the film. But they're not putting me off or anything like that. And I think it's just because we're just seeing this, this new Dark Crystal, so it's just a new way of looking at it, and because we've just been so used to seeing the film for 35 35 years of Dark Crystal. So I think that there will be quite a lot of things that are quite a lot of new things that they're just going to be totally new and fresh and really different. And I'm actually excited about all that. Like, I'm really looking forward to seeing all the new stuff that we're going to get from the show.
Absolutely. We're in the prequel era of Dark Crystal. I mean, this is so exciting. Think about Star Wars in their prequel era. It was definitely a different flavor of Star Wars, but man, they opened up the universe. You know, they added, you know, so much content, and it's so exciting that we're in this whole new universe. Well, not a universe, but they're opening it and expanding it. You know, we've got 7 clans when we used to have 2 Gelfling, you know. Oh my God, it's gonna be mind blowing.
It's amazing. And I keep thinking of that scene in the original where, of course, Jen is looking for the shard at Agra's. And my question is, how'd the shard get there? Who brought it to Agra? Who brought it to Agra for safekeeping? What story is that? Are they going to cover that in Age of Resistance? Is it going to be Rian? Is it going to be Deet? Will Deet find the shard? I think the shard will play a role in Age of Resistance for sure. I mean, I think maybe not a central role, but it will. It's kind of a bit of a MacGuffin, but there's a whole different setup happening right now. But also to the idea of the world that we're in terms of the prequel era. And I really think it's important for people, everyone, whether it's new fans or old fans, to understand that the people who were involved in creating this show, everything was created new. The Skeksis, the sets, the props, everything is new. There's nothing kind of coming over from the original film in terms of puppets, or except for maybe Luis Gold and a couple other people. Everyone on the show is new, and I think we kind of have to give the filmmakers, Louis Leterrier, and the writers and the puppeteers and the prop makers and everyone involved, give them a chance to tell their story and not write it off as, oh, it doesn't look like the original, or, oh, this is different from the original. Just really understand that there are new voice actors in there who are going to be voicing different Skeksis. Agra's voice is different, but it's really spot on. We have to kind of give it a chance and not just blow it off. And I think giving it a chance also gives the people who've worked night and day for years on this show to say what they want to say. And for now, in terms of the teaser, I could not have even dreamed what we saw is what we saw.
Again, it's just so incredible, and just the visuals is just really outstanding. And I think they did a great job. Even, I know this sort of term has been used, of the amalgamation of between puppetry and sort of that visual effects. And I think in this trailer there did seem like quite a bit of CGI being used in the trailer. Not with the puppets or anything, but more like in the backgrounds. I think that we saw, like, especially like with the 3 suns. And I think, Ethan, you mentioned about it in the previous episode, that those look like real suns, because in the original film, like, they were just sort of, the suns were sort of like matte paintings and that sort of thing. But in the show, they look like real suns, yeah.
Yeah, in this one, they look like our suns, but altered. They look like real suns that are shining on this world. And it looks like they actually took a crew out to another planet. They took them to Thra, and they filmed there. And it looks amazing. And I mean, you look at Agra, and it looks like her from the movie, but not her. I mean, the hands are more detailed. Same with the Gelfling. I was comparing the hands from the original film and the hands in the teasers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the fingerprints, they're a little bit thicker. I mean, they look like real creatures' hands, and it's incredible. I did just want to say, Jamie, when you mentioned the shard, before this teaser, I would have said, no, Broseph, no, the story has been told about the shard. We know how Agra gets the shard. It's been told in other mediums. But this teaser, it surprised me. It's doing things that, it's not playing by the rules, and that's okay. They're doing some things. There's been stories told of how Agra gets the shard and how the shard gets from Agra to Jen, But now I'm wondering, is there more to that story? Have we been told some fibs or myths or legends? Now I'm totally on board with you, Jamie. I don't know how Agra gets the shard, and I'm so excited to see if Age of Resistance is going to tell that story. Maybe not this season, maybe in a future season or a future book. That is thrilling to me.
Because the shard could be lost for all we know. Like, everyone knows, or I don't know if everyone knows, there could be a point in Age of Resistance, whether it's this season or the next season or whatever, if there is a next season, where they're like, how do we fix this? How do we make this whole? And the Gelflings are like, well, we have to heal this. The prophecy says we have to heal this crystal. Well, how do we do that? Well, where's the shard from the crystal? No one knows where this thing is. So part of it might be whether it's Brea, maybe Brea is tasked for looking for the shard. And it's that the story of the shard is kind of what Jen does is that last kind of 10 minutes of the story, you know, where he finds a shard and then throws it away and then Kira finds it and they heal the crystal. But the story of the shard is much longer than that. I would imagine it's the way that it gets to Augras. I don't know what the stories are or what are in the comics or the books or whatever, but if the filmmakers can tell that story, I mean, it could be its own season where the season revolves around finding the shard. I think it could be amazing.
Well, the comics show that Augur gets her third eye in the previous Great Conjunction, but in this teaser, she does not have a third eye. Where's the third eye? And in the original film, you know, they show that they drain essence by opening up a portal, and there's a reflector, you know, but in the teaser, they bring it down with claws, and they you know, bring it down and shoot, you know, electricity at it or something. And that's what I mean by, I think everything you think you know about Dark Crystal, try and forget it, because they're playing by new rules, and I'm super excited. I mean, I know my Dark Crystal and everything. I'm throwing everything out the window, and I'm like, okay, I'll take your hand. I'll go down this path you're taking me on. I'll forget everything I know. I know nothing, and I'm so excited. There's so many questions. Like, where's her third eye? Why are you doing this with what are the claws trying to do? Where's the shard? I think I know where the shard is, but I think I'm wrong. I think they're going to surprise us.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, especially like seeing Olga and like you said about, you know, that she's missing her eye, because I mean, with some of the comics, like she got that third eye after when the Urskeks arrived to Thra for the first time, and that's how she got the eye. And then, of course, when the Urskeks actually built the observatory for her. So it's actually really interesting how, yeah, in that shot that she doesn't have the eye, or whether she actually did lose the eye and then gets it back, or maybe Olga's a time traveling of Thra, like able to travel through time. I don't know, as a crazy example, but yeah.
There's a moment in the trailer where her third eye is glowing and she's about to do something. She's about to conjure something in that mist. So we don't really know what Augur is capable of.
We don't really know what that third eye is even for. Think about it. It's useless in the movie. I mean, she might be doing some magic woo-woo, you know?
Oh, totally.
Right, because that's not the one that she takes out, right? It's the one, her other eye that she takes out all the time.
Augur could be a voodoo priestess for all we know.
Oh, yeah, that third eye, the forehead eye. That the Funko doll, the figure, and the Augur in the teaser, they're all missing the third eye, the forehead eye. And at first I thought maybe it was a flashback, but now I'm like, oh no, that's a magic woo-woo eye.
That maybe it only gets activated at certain points in the story, maybe, yeah.
Bringing up another point, I was just going to say, how did you guys feel about the music of the trailer?
I really liked it. I mean, I think as some know, like in particular with teaser trailers or trailers in general, the music doesn't necessarily represent what's going to be in the final product of the show. So it was actually last night I tracked down, I think through one of the Dark Crystal groups, someone managed to track down the start of the music or what that music's from on YouTube. It's like the start of the track is the start of the teaser trailer. And then, of course, like in that trailer, we got the lyrics to what we're sort of referring to as a Grotton lullaby. And it was actually pretty awesome, Ethan, with your wife, because I think I put the question out there on the Crystal Shutters. I was like, hey, because I've been watching a trailer quite a few times, I'm like, oh, actually, I'll watch it with captions just to, see if I missed anything or, see if there was any captions during the song, which there wasn't. And that's when I put the question out there, hey, has anyone cracked a code of, what the lyrics are in this Grotton song? And I think that was the thing. I think your wife really Ethan, sort of cracked the code. Yeah.
I listened to it, and I listened to the radio, and I don't know the lyrics to anything. I suck at lyrics. And I saw your post asking if anyone's cracked the lyrics, and I'm like, I can never do that, but my wife can. So I grabbed her, I gave her a notebook and a pen and some headphones. I said, baby, go do this, go do your thing, girl, do it. Literally 5 minutes later, she's back, and she nailed it. I listened to it myself. I was like, girl, I think you got this. And
props for calling out Groton. I could not hear that.
No, my wife doesn't even know Dark Crystal, and she nailed it. I'm like, man, you got ears. She actually can't see very well, but she's got amazing ears. I was like, close your eyes, listen to it, nail it. And yeah, shout out to Megan Davey. And yes, Detective Pikachu, that's my real last name. Megan Davey, she nailed it. She's my love, she's my stars, she's my sky. Way to go, Megan.
Aww.
Yeah, that was amazing. And of course, like the lyrics, so the lyrics are Groton's work in the dark and deep, so lay down my childling and sleep. No need to fear and no need to weep. But yeah, there's just so much like in that trailer, and yeah, I mean the next couple of weeks and months leading into the show, there's just gonna be so much that's gonna pop out, with the show, and even, I mean, recently we sort of got those sneak peeks at the Funko with the pop vinyls, and the action figurines are sort of going to come out, which I'm presuming will be probably later in the year. So yeah, we sort of got a lot to look forward to, with the show, but with the merchandise as well, and books and all the other material that's going to come out for the show, which is going to be just quite an amazing time. And I think I really applaud everyone at Netflix and the Jim Henson Company and everyone who worked on the show. It's just been such a positive experience. Everyone's been loving it, and we just can't wait for more.
Yeah, that fan base is really going to grow. It's just so cool to keep seeing, on Facebook, friends that you've probably mentioned Dark Crystal to in the past, but never, didn't really know what it was. And they're sharing this video like crazy and just saying, oh, wow, look how cool this is. And I can't help but comment on every one of them because there's been quite a bit. So it's really cool to see how much it's going to grow.
Definitely, yeah. So I think before we wrap it up for on this teaser trailer reaction for Trial by Stone, I'd just love to know, I just want to go through like final words on the teaser trailer and all things Dark Crystal.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else feels this just, blew my expectations out of the water. I mean, it's the visuals of this, and what I really love the most about this, and I see a lot of talk about it, is just kind of guessing what's CGI and what's not. The compositing and is done so well here, and the editing of the trailer is beautiful. The visuals, I just can't wait to see what we're going to get to see in the next trailer, and eventually get 10 hours of the show. We're going to have so much to talk about. So I'm 10 out of 10. Can't wait.
Excellent. And what about yourself, Ethan?
I'm flabbergasted. I'm speechless. I watch it on loop all the time. I am so excited. I mean, this is the beginning of a new era, a new age, if you will. Okay. Darkness is rising. I mean, this is when, your aunt, your grandma, your grandpa, and your dad's going to come all in and watch Dark Crystal with you, finally. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, I'm talking Dark Crystal with my sister and my brother and my babysitter and my babysitter's husband. I mean, everybody is coming out of the woodworks talking Dark Crystal with me. And it's so exciting. This is definitely new to me. I mean, this is definitely something I sit in my basement and do. And now I can come out of my basement, blink into the three suns, and talk Dark Crystal with people. It is great. I'm so excited. Bring it on. That we're 90 days away exactly. Today's June 1st. So let's do this.
Yeah, we're definitely for a wild ride with the show. And what about yourself, Jamie? Final thoughts.
Well, much like Eric, I mean, really, everyone. I'm just blown away. I'm blown away by what I've seen. You know, it's prequels are very hard to do. Sequels are very hard to do. We've had this discussion before, and by all accounts, it looks like they've done it right. And that is such a hard thing to do because you have to please an existing fan base. You also have to bring in new fans. You have to honor source material. You have to expand a story, but you have to do that expansion within the context of the original, so it feels legitimate, it feels real to the world that it's created. And right now, I mean, they've done no wrong. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Maybe I won't like everything in the trailer, or I'm sorry, in the season. But I don't think that that's the case. And I also really believe that the people involved in the production and the writing and everything that we've mentioned before really understand Jim Henson's vision, Brian Froud's vision, what this world was supposed to be, how serious it is. I know that before we even saw this trailer, and I think a few months back, we were talking about the voice actors and my hesitation over, will they have some sort of wisecracking street wise, like almost Peter and the Rabbit or whatever, like Skeksis or Gelfling or Podling or whatever. And from what I can tell, there's none of that. It's this very serious, high fantasy show made for Netflix with the kind of production values I could never even imagine. So I am blown away, and I can't wait for more.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for myself, final words. I mean, again, the teaser trailer, there was a lot in it. It was amazing. There was so much we got to see. What we saw is just a tiny glimpse. What we saw was just two minutes of a 10 hours of Dark Crystal series that's just going to come out in a couple of months' time. So I think there'll be a lot of surprises in store for us, and it's just again, as I always said, now is just such an exciting time to be a fan of the Dark Crystal. And I think really I'm just going to quote from the Dark Crystal creation myths. At first there was silence, and then the song began. And this teaser trailer is pretty much the song, and that's what's really jump-starting a lot of people getting on board with the Dark Crystal. Whether they're new to it, to the world of it, or if they're people or fans that just jumping back into the world of Thra and revisiting the film again and then checking out the show. And we're just got so much to look forward to. Of course, there's going to be episodes of the podcast where we're just going to be talking about every episode of the show. But we'll definitely be having a lot more interviews as well. We'll have a lot of people who've worked on the show, and that will definitely happen. And so, even knowing just sort of the stories about how the show was made is going to be pretty incredible. So there's going to be a lot of fantastic content that's going to come out through Trial by Stone. And I mean, Trial by Stone is the only Dark Crystal podcast that's out there. So yeah, and again, thanks to everyone, to Jaime, Ethan, and Eric for being part of the show.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. Being a Dark Crystal fan used to be very lonely before the internet came along. Before these groups come along, you just find a brotherhood to talk to every day about these things. So it's
totally
been really refreshing. Thank you so much.
Totally.
I thought I was the only one.
I thought I was.
I thought I was.
You've already taken too long, Gelfling. Hurry!
At last the crystal calls. It is time to return to the castle.
The crystal calls! To the crystal chamber!
So that's all the time I have for this episode of Trial by Stone. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so at darkcrystalpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/darkcrystalpodcast. We're also on Twitter at darkcrystalpod and on Instagram at darkcrystalpodcast. If you like the podcast and you think that others would love it too, then please spread the word about it. And if you can write a review on Apple Podcasts or even on Facebook, greatly appreciate it. And if you're actually watching this on video on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and hit the subscribe button, and then also hit that bell notification button to be notified of future videos from Trial by Stone. Thank you all so much, and stay tuned for the next episode of Trial by Stone.